Shack's first live stream broadcast from our Candle Shack studio here in Falkirk in central Scotland. My name's David.
And I'm Zoe.
And together we make up part of Candle Shack's R&D department. And we're here with you today. Thanks for joining us today, because today is a very special day, isn't it, Zoe? Why is today a special day?
Because it is World Candle Day. And we are here to share the knowledge for all you guys at home.
Zoe's absolutely correct. We are here to spread the love, tell you what we know about candle making. We're going to cover a few topics here. We are conscious that we have a lot of experienced candle makers in our community. We also have a lot of people who have recently just joined us. So we have structured today's broadcast to cover topics, hopefully, that will have something for everyone. The first thing we're going to talk about is some basic candle anatomy, what goes into your candle and why.
After that, we'll be speaking about what is the benefit of choosing a wood wick versus a cotton wick.
Then, having established if you want to use a wood wick or a cotton wick, we are going to look at how do you choose the best wick for your candle.
And then after this, it will be how to align those wicks and keep them straight in the jar.
And the last topic today, we're going to be talking about the balancing act that you probably have come across, or indeed will come across, between hang up and suiting. We'll get onto that in due course.
Then after this, there will be a recap, question and answer session, just to get through all your questions that you might have that we haven't covered today.
Yeah, we'll try and get through a few questions. We'll see how we are for time. We may even have answered some of your questions as we go through the broadcast today. So, first things first, especially for beginners, we're going to talk about candle anatomy. Now, Candle Shack, as you guys probably know already, we specialise in container candles, and a container candle consists of 4 different components. The first component, not surprisingly, is the container. We have a choice of containers. We can have 9 cls, 20 cls, 30 cls, and you can also have 50 cl multi-wick containers. You may even want to go for a metal container. The container is something that you choose yourself. It's your call, it's your candle. So from the four components in your candle, 3 of them you can choose yourself. You've made your choice of container. The next thing you have to decide is what wax you're going to use. So we have a variety of waxes available. You can have a choice of plant waxes, paraffin waxes. For the purposes of today's broadcast, we are going to focus on Candle Shack's RCX wax. And we chose that one because it's one of the easiest, most forgiving waxes for you to wick, and also because it has really good environmental credentials. The third component in your container candle is the fragrance. Available from Candle Shack, our fragrances are pretty much designed for candles. You might find 1 or 2 that won't burn in specific waxes, but generally speaking, you can be pretty sure that a Candle Shack fragrance is going to burn in a Candle Shack wax. We have 2 different classes of fragrance. We have your regular synthetic fragrance oils, and we also have around, we're talking about what, 14, 15 essential oils. The essential oils are 100% natural, and they can be a little bit more challenging to wick than your synthetic oils, but you can still wick them nonetheless. So you've now chosen your container, you've chosen your wax, you've chosen your fragrance, and now the fun part is choosing the wick. So we'll have a separate section on that later on. But in terms of choosing your wick, first of all, you have to make a very fundamental decision about the different types of wick. Zoe?
Yeah, so we have choices of Woodwicks and cotton wicks. So you'll find that there are Woodwicks with no lamination on them, and we have some Woodwicks with an extra piece of wood, which makes them laminated, and then we've got some cotton wicks. So you'll find that the non-laminated wicks are better for the paraffin blends. You've got your laminated wicks, which are better for your plant-based blends. Sorry?
It's hard to say that, isn't it?
It isn't.
Plant-based. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. And I knew what you meant.
My English is not too good, you know. And then we've got our cotton wicks, which your bleached wicks are usually better for your paraffin blends, and then you've got your brown wicks.
Zoe, you can have some of my brown wicks.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave.
You're very welcome.
You're so nice.
Yeah. Glad to
Which
appreciate it.
are better for your plant-based blends. Perfectly said.
Yeah, well done you. Yeah. Yeah. So the Woodwicks generally come in two categories. We have single ones, which are, as Zoe said, they're for paraffin blends, because paraffin, it tends to be a bit more viscous, so it doesn't need the same sort of boost from the booster wick. And yeah, booster wicks are used in plant waxes. So yeah, so why, right, Zoe, why would I choose to use a wooden wick? If I were going to make a plant wax candle, why should I choose a wood wick? What's so good about it?
Well, you get a nice crackle sound from it.
You
So
do get a nice crackle
if you
sound,
like
yeah.
that nice kind of fireplace sound, you know, then you get a nice
Yeah.
little crackle from it. Also, if you're using cotton wicks, you would need some sort of tool or alignment tool to hold the wick in, whereas you don't need these with the wood
Yep.
wicks.
We shall get onto that in due course.
And some people find that these are a little bit more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, yeah, they are. They look nice, and as Zoe said, the beauty with Woodwicks is they can also sound nice, especially if you get the right wax blend, you get a nice crackling sound. Woodwicks, the thing to be careful with Woodwicks is, while you would work out an average burn rate for your candle for it burning top to bottom, if you find that your candle averages, say for example 5 grams per hour, you might find that within each 4-hour cycle, because we do burn testing in 4-hour cycles, you might find that one 4-hour cycle the rate might go down to about 3 grams per hour. You might find that another cycle the rate might go up to 7 grams per hour, although as the whole candle burns down it will average to around 5 grams per hour. The reason this happens, wood is a natural product. That's the attraction of it for many people. So wood being natural, it has a grain. So as the molten wax travels up through the wick by capillary action, as the grain in the wick changes, then so the flow rate of the wax is going to change. With cotton wicks, you have a lot more cotton wicks to choose from, so it can be more challenging to get the right cotton wick for your chosen wax essential oil blend or wax fragrance oil blend. But once you have landed on the correct cotton wick or wicks, because there will be more than one correct wick, you can be pretty sure that it's going to burn fairly consistently all the way down in every cycle. So again, like everything else in candle making, there is a bit of a trade-off. Wood wicks look nice, but the burn rate can be maybe slightly erratic. Cotton wicks, it's a lot harder to choose a cotton wick, but once you get the correct cotton wick, you're good to go. You should be able to get the same burn profile pretty much every time. So
Dave, how
So-
do we choose a wick?
So, yeah, the next big question: how do you choose a wick? Right? How indeed do you choose a wick? One of the questions that we get asked quite frequently, indeed a few of you guys have asked the same question today, is what wick size do I need for a 30 cl candle? Well, you'll hear me saying this quite often. It depends. Now, I don't know if our cameras can pick these up. These candles were made about 90 minutes ago,
Lit.
maybe slightly more
About
than that.
90
Yeah,
minutes.
sorry, they were lit around 90 minutes, 2 hours ago. This one at the end here, it's very much underwicked. The melt pool is very, very small. Eventually that's going to tunnel as the candle burns down. This candle here is probably just about right where you would expect your melt pool to be after about 90 minutes. The candle in the middle, I don't know if you can see it too well with the cameras, has a full melt pool already. The melt pool is probably looking at it around 5-6 millimeters deep. This candle is drastically overwicked. So
like pig ears on it as well, for
yeah,
a mushroom.
Yeah, this is what we call a mushroom on the candle, which causes this extremely big flame, which just in turn accentuates this problem. So, how to get it right? As a general go-to wick for us with a 30 CL candle would be, would you say, CL12?
Yeah.
Yep, CL12. CL12 wick, it's really slap bang in the middle of normal. CL wicks are a very popular range of wicks. They're very versatile. For a 30 CL, 12 is a good place to go. If you find that after a 4-hour cycle you still have some hang up around the side, you might want to take it up a wick size. Likewise, if you find your melt pool is far too big, you might want to take it down a wick size. You might find that having done that, you're still not happy with it. At this point, you would move into a different class of wick. We have a large range of wicks that you can use in plant waxes. You can use, well, obviously the CL wicks I've talked about. We have Stabilo wicks, we have V wicks, we have VRL wicks, many others. Typically, a CL wick is going to burn similarly to a V14 wick. So there is a wick guide available which we use, which will help you to choose a wick that is similar in size to a wick from a different class. If you're talking, I'll just quickly go back to cotton wicks. If you've chosen your wick fragrance combination in a particular wax, if you then change the fragrance, I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to have to change the wick that you use with that fragrance. You might sometimes get lucky, you might find something that's very, very similar, but the secret really is testing. You just have to keep validating your burns, make sure you've got the right wick for your candle. For Woodwicks, optimizing the wick is slightly easier simply because we don't have so much choice. So for RCX, so we pick a Woodwick for RCX, what would be our go-to for RCX?
LB3.
LB3, yeah,
Yep.
Good choice.
LB3,
Yeah.
right in the middle.
We call the booster wicks L wicks. The L stands for laminated wick, booster wick. It's the same thing. So when we talk about an LB3 wick, the L means it's a laminated wick and not a single wick. The B refers to the thickness of the wick in terms of how wafer thin or otherwise it is. We have like an A wick is 0.5 millimeters in thickness, a B wick is 0.75 millimeters, and the C wick is 1 millimeter in thickness. And the number at the end of it simply that just denotes what the actual width of the wick is. So again, LB3 wick, it's probably slap bang in the middle of normal. That would be your go-to wick. And if you found your candle was burning a bit too feistily, you could take it down a thickness or down a width. If you find that it's starting to tunnel and it's just not performing the way you expect, then that's when you would have to look at a thicker wick or a wider wick. One little caveat worth mentioning here, sometimes, it's a bit bizarre, we don't fully understand why, but sometimes a 0.75 millimeter thick, a B wick, will burn better than the corresponding 1 millimeter thick wick. It's a strange one, that, isn't it, Zoe? But we do see it now and again. So yeah, while we have guidelines, there is no substitute for just actually testing your wicks over and over again until you land on the right one. Another interesting thing about wood wicks, you will find that Woodwicks generally do create a bigger melt pool, a deeper melt pool.
Yeah. But they don't burn off as, like, if you had the same melt pool in a cotton wick, you wouldn't get, the rate would then increase with the cotton wick, but it doesn't seem to increase with the Woodwick.
Yeah, so Woodwicks they are generally very, very forgiving. So yeah, certainly if you've never tried Woodwicks before, certainly by all means give them a try. And interesting, just off at a slight tangent on Woodwicks, when we have a vessel this size, Zoe, do we have one over there? Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so this vessel here, this has been wicked with space, Zoe. I need space. Thank you.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave.
Okay. So this has been wicked with a single wood wick. If you look closely, you can see this is a laminator or booster wick. It's got a little booster strip in the middle. With the corresponding size, I haven't done it here, but you can actually, because this size is just getting a little bit too big, rather than have a really wide booster wick, you could actually put two very narrow booster wicks, one at either side, and you could make this into a double wick candle. So a lot of people have done that in the past, and that seemed to work quite well. But again, remember, if you're going for a 2-wick candle, you treat it as 2 small single wick candles and wick it in that context. Okay. So the next topic we were going to talk about was how to align the wicks. Now, this is a topic close to our heart because anyone who works at Candle Shack knows. Yeah, I can see you laughing, Zoe. I'm sure most of you know Cheryl, or you know who Cheryl is, and the single thing that annoys Cheryl most is squinty wicks, isn't it, Zoe?
Yeah.
We don't want to face the wrath of Cheryl.
Yeah.
So Zoe, how do we get our wicks straight?
Well, if we... Oh, Dave has already put this wick in for me. So
here's one we made earlier.
Yeah. So if I just grab myself a little claw here, then that means... So obviously getting it into the middle is a lot by eye. So that is kind of like aim fire, sort of, when it comes to putting this part in. But when it comes to aligning it at the top, if you've got a tool for this, you would put it onto the top, and then you want to make sure that don't push this piece down, because what you'll do is you will make it so that it tries to pull your wick back up off the bottom of the jar.
So you can end up pulling the wick straight off the bottom of the glass then.
Yeah, and also when you add hot wax to this, it will heat any glue or whatever, and if you're already pulling on that, then it will make it snap up easier.
So the secret is to have the wick clipped in place, but without any actual tension on the wick.
Tension on the wick, yeah. So you're just basically, and you want to make sure that when you have put your wick into the hole that it is actually standing up straight, because you'll find on some tools that you will have extra holes for different positions. So you want to make sure that it is in the upright position and not just slightly over to the side in any way.
Okay. So if I had a 3-wick candle,
yep,
what would I do there? Because there's 3 wicks in it, it's 3 times as hard.
Da, 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 da.
Here's one we made earlier.
Here's one we made earlier. Except Dave made it too tight.
I was just seeing if you would notice. Well spotted, Zoe.
So if this is the case, you can unclip your wicks again and put them, make sure you push them back down. And then you can put them back in again without any tension on them. Make sure you've pulled them into the right holes again, just to make sure that they're standing straight. Because the thing is, if you make them lean over to start with, then as they burn down and the wax gets wet, the weight of the wick may still pull it over. So you want it straight, nice and straight. And then with your wooden wicks, if you don't put this in the middle straight, there is a little trick to, if you get one of your other wooden wicks, you can actually cut and prop into the middle. So
yeah, what we often find is that wood wicks, they do have a very, very slight bend in them. So even if it's centred perfectly in the bottom, it might still bend to one side. So as Zoe said, you can put in
A little prop.
yeah, just whatever you see fit, just to keep that in place, and you can hold it there until the wax has set. Anything else we need to know about aligning wicks? I think that's pretty much covered.
That's pretty much covered. Yeah, there's not really much to that one.
I think one other little thing. If you decide when you're using your wick wires, if you decide your wick isn't centred, probably a good idea not to fidget with it. Would that be reasonable? Because when it's hot.
If it's hot, and plus if you've got your wax in it and it is already made a skin on the top, if you try to fix it at this point, you might damage the surface, so you'll not get as smooth a surface on your candle and stuff. So you do need to be quite sure that you have fixed your wick before you've got a surface on your candle. Yeah,
so aim to get it right first time if you can. And again, practice makes perfect. The more you try it, the more you'll get used to it. The balancing act, hang up and suiting. Now, we should have done a here's one we made earlier here, shouldn't we?
Yeah, Dave's favourite subject.
Yeah. Hang up and suiting, it is a trade-off. The example that we had there, can you pass that front candle over, please, Zoe?
There's one you could tip, Dave.
Yeah, but yeah, you can't really see it too well in that one. We'll use this one. The hang up on this, if you can, I don't know how well you can see it. Basically, hang up means if your wick isn't powerful enough, then you get a deposit of wax around the top of the glass. It's not a bad thing if you have a small deposit of wax around the side at the start of the burn, because as the candle burns down and this flame becomes lower, then the heat from the flame will start to melt this hang up and bring it down into the candle. So a small amount of hang up at the start of the burning, you can get away with that, but if it's too much, the candle will burn down and leave a little or maybe even a big wall of wax around the side of the candle. I said it was a trade-off. The trade-off is that if you try and mitigate that as best you can, but if you overdo it, so your first few burns you have no hang up at all, there is a very good chance that as this flame burns down, you will start to see sooting around the top of the candle. Now, again, a little bit of sooting isn't necessarily a disaster. It'll be up to yourself, you know, how much sooting or otherwise you would like to see on your candle. But I guess as a rule of thumb, maybe just a very moderate skin of hang up for your first couple of burn cycles is probably not a bad thing. If it was too clean for the first few burns, would it be safe to say, Zoe, that we could pretty much expect some soot towards the end of it?
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's, again, it's the same old theme. You'll hear me saying it again and again. Keep testing your candles. There's also an element of subjectivity in here, that what I think is a decent looking candle, Zoe might not think it's a decent looking candle. There are different types of good candle. Some people might like a bigger melt pool, some people less so. I think it's up to the individual to decide how you want your candle to be. So yeah, to recap the topics that we've covered here, we have gone over some basic candle anatomy. We've talked about Woodwicks and cotton wicks. We've talked about how to choose a wick. We've talked about how to align the wicks. And we covered, albeit briefly, the balancing act between hang up and sooting. So, what's next, Zoe? Questions.
The questions and answers.
The questions and answers.
Right.
Yeah, you always sit there saying, "Oh, I hope they ask my question." The questions that we have received from you, not surprisingly, a lot of questions are very similar. You guys have just been asking the same questions, but in different ways. We probably have covered a lot of these things during the broadcast here, but we'll go through we'll go through a few anyway. So, the first question I have here, someone is looking for the best temperature to pour to avoid the surface pitting or looking uneven, and the best way to fix these issues if they occur. Well, as you know, we've been focusing today on Candleshack's RCX. So, Zoe, RCX, how would you pour an RCX candle in an ideal world?
Well, in order for it not to, like, so you've got to think about the drying period as well.
Yeah,
So
we do.
I would, me personally, I would put my heating on, like, just so that it's not cooling in a cold environment. So I'm thinking, obviously, for the after pouring part.
Yeah, I think you're right. So the cooling is as important as the actual pouring.
Yeah. So you've got to think about the temperature in your room, whether you've got any drafts, like if you've got any windows open, I would close them. Like
for actually pouring the candle to get it made, typically we would heat to about 60 degrees, add your fragrance oil, pour it at what, say
50 to 55?
50, 55, yeah. Heating the glass. Heating the glass is probably a good idea. Certainly, if you live in Scotland, it's a very good idea. The key thing, as Zoe touched on there, is after your candle is poured, don't let it cool too quickly, too soon. Your first 48 hours is the crucial period. At that point, if you can, try and not let the room temperature drop below 20 degrees, maybe 18 at an outside. If you do that, there's a possibility that your RCX candles, will show a bit of cracking. What we have found is that if you can maintain the temperature at sort of a sensible room temperature, there's a lot less likelihood of that happening. But also, you only really have to be conscious of that for perhaps the first 48 hours. After that, the candle is pretty much cured as much as it's going to cure. It's a crystallization process. After it's spent 48 hours crystallizing, it's not really going to change very much after that, and we find at that point you can be a bit more flexible in how you treat your candles. So, in summary, heat to 60, add your fragrance oil, pour it at 50 to 55, ideally in a heated glass if you can do that, and crucially, keep it at room temperature for 24 to 48 hours. The longer the better.
The one thing I have found that if you do have not very nice tops and you want to fix them, then I would do that while the candle has still got some warmth in it.
Yeah,
like rather than trying to do that the next day, because you're now trying to fix a cold candle, whereas RCX just likes it better when it's still got like a little bit of warmth in the jar. So I'll go over, maybe it doesn't look so great, so I'll heat gun the top of it just to like make it more smooth when it's still a little bit of warmth in the jar. If you make it when it's too cold, then you can cause the cracking that David was just talking about a second ago. Yeah,
and I think what Zoe said there, it's absolutely correct. When you pour your candles, look after them, nurse your candles, take care of your candles. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. It's if there's any possibility of cracking or dodgy surfaces, catch it as soon as you can, and you've got a much greater chance of success.
Yeah.
Which you can do using like a heat gun or
if
you have a flashing equipment.
I have heard on the community group that some people do use their grill. Never tried it, but some people do use their grill on the community group.
I'm not sure I'd be a big fan of that.
Me neither, but you know, there's some people out there doing it.
But heat guns that you can buy in any DIY store, they're pretty good for tidying up the top of your candles if you feel that you have to do so. Other questions we've had.
So for El Dave 17, how long to cure before A, testing the wicks, and B, testing the hot throw? Thanks. So for testing the wicks, we generally wait 24 to 48 hours because your candle's not really going to change much after that. And for the hot throws, pretty much the same. I wouldn't leave it any longer?
Yeah, I think after 48 hours, it's probably the recrystallization has done as much as it's going to do. It's not going to really change very much after that.
No.
So yeah, to err on the caution, to err on the side of caution, go for 48 hours. You should be okay with that.
Yep.
What other questions have we got, Zoe?
Izzy Hunt, what is the best wooden wicks for a 30cl Lottie glass and RCX coconut and rapeseed blend?
Yeah, well, I think we touched on Izzy's question earlier on.
Yep.
That we can't really give a one size fits all wooden wick or any other type of wick just for a particular glass or wax. It really depends on the fragrance that you have added to that. That's going to make a massive difference. But again, LB3 would be your go-to wick for a 30cl Lottie glass with RCX.
Good starting point.
Good starting point, yeah. We've had another question, yeah. The best fragrance load for RCX. Yeah, a couple of you have, we've got Jen Fay-San and someone else asked that same question. The best fragrance load for RCX, I don't think we can really say what's the best. It will be different. Typically, we go for 10%. Some people go for 8%.
I was going to say it depends on how strong the fragrance is. But...
Yes, it depends. Yeah. So again, there's no there's no real correct answer to the best fragrance load. It's really up to yourself. You make your RCX candle, decide, yeah, that's a candle for me, or do I put a bit more fragrance in it? It's your call. But I think what I can say, maybe not a best fragrance load, but we can give you a typical
maximum.
Loads. Yeah, typical would be between 8%, 10%.
Maximum probably 12.
Yeah, maximum 12. Some people go for 12. Some go down as low as 6, maybe even lower still, I'm not sure. The lowest that we've done, I think, has been 6%.
Yeah.
Okay. Kelly Barney, which Woodwicks work best with RCX? Right, Kelly, I hope we've answered that for you during the rest of the broadcast.
Yep, laminated.
Where are we? Oh, yes. Okay, sorry, Zoe, you're right. Oh,
What?
laminated wicks.
Yeah. It's like you forgot to remind her which wicks it was, Dave.
Okay. Julia Sika, topics about RCX wax curing. Yeah, we've mentioned that, how to try and minimise the cracking and what to do if you see it manifesting itself. What have we got here? Yeah. Any other questions that you can find in there, Zoe, that we can answer? Yeah. Yeah, there's a question here with no name on it. Love advice in Woodwicks for 9, 20 and 30cls with Candle Shack fragrances. Again, I mentioned Woodwicks earlier on. It depends not just on the size of glass, but it depends also on the fragrance that you're using. But obviously, if you chose like a paraffin wax, you would go for single Woodwicks. Plant wax, you would go for the booster wicks or the laminated wicks. And for a small glass like that, then basically you would go for a small wick, perhaps go for the smallest size of Woodwick you can and start to work your way up. That's pretty much how it is. If you used an LB3 in a glass this size, it would be like a furnace. It would be far, far too big. You can tell by looking at it that it's probably not really going to happen. So again, we can't really give you exact recommendations, just perhaps general rules of thumb that I hope you have found useful. So I think that's pretty much it, Zoe, for our first broadcast. Anything you would like to drop in?
No.
Yeah.
I think I would just like to thank you guys for watching at home. And if you have any other comments, just drop them into the section at the bottom and someone will get back to you. We've got someone manning the comment section, so if you could write any other comments, that would be great. And you?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, we did try to answer quite a few questions there. If you, as Zoe said, if you have any more questions, then please drop them into us and we'll try and get back to them. Some of the questions that you submitted to us, we unfortunately weren't able to answer because they were looking for possibly a bit more detail than we could offer here today. So these are things hopefully we can pick up in future live streams. If you send us your topics and ideas, then that would be great. So I guess all we could ask now is, yeah, if you want to, remember this is World Candle Day. So if you want to spread the love, anything you've picked up here, then tell your friends, tell your family, tell them how wonderful candles are. And I like to get my quotations in. Anyone who knows me here knows I like my quotations. And one of my favourites is Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, it's better, she didn't always say it, said, better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. So if you are having trouble wicking your candles, just remember, a problem shared is a problem halved. Bring your questions to us, put them on the community, and we'll do our best to help you going forward. And hopefully we'll see you again at the next broadcast.
Thank you.
Happy World Candle Day.
Happy World Candle Day. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Did you enjoy World Candle Day, Zoe?